Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Babbling. I want to apologize in advance. I know it's been a freaking minute since I've done one of these, and I will make up for that by backlogging a few. But yeah, sorry it's been so long. I'm happy to be back. It's just been a crazy couple of weeks. Just went home to Ireland and got busy working on some projects and work and all that boring adult nonsense as well, of course, naturally. Always gets in the way, doesn't it? Life. But no, it's great to be back. I am excited to get to jump in with some stories, some tales, some new bits, all the usual shiz I do on this podcast. I will certainly be doing once again today. And yeah, got some fun stuff. So without further ado, I think we'll just jump in, shall we? I think that's what the people are waiting for. Um, Again, if you're listening to this on Patreon, thank you very much. If you're watching the clip on YouTube or TikTok, please give the Patreon a go. It's on. You can subscribe to it for as little as £1 a month. It won't be any hassle out of your pocket whatsoever, and got a lot of fun content up there. Some PDFs of scripts I've written, some sets and clips from stand-up shows. So yeah, lots of fun on there so far. I've been having a real blast kind of building a little channel and a community there. So yeah, please feel free to check it out and join in the fun. But yeah, what did I want to talk to you guys about? The usual, yes, we start off with a few stand-up tales, stand-up stories. So on this Irish gig, it's fantastic, like Irish comedians only gig back in June, beginning of June. That was so much freaking fun. It was really wonderful to be like around people that are in a very similar situation to me, like specifically being that they are Irish people who moved to London to pursue a career in comedy, you know? Um, so it was great to meet, like, I think it was 8 of us on the bill altogether. I think 9, including the host. So just to get to meet all these people. And most of them are people I already knew, but getting to be together in this room was wonderful. The majority of the audience was Irish as well. So just a really, really fun crowd. They were interesting because there was a few comedians on before I went up. And it was very clear to me that they were, a little drunk, a little rowdy, and they weren't going to be an audience that wanted to hear stories. They wanted to just hear tight jokes. And I had prepared, like, what I had in mind to do was some kind of more story driven stuff. And I switched my set last minute because of realizing that, what I think is a good lesson and something I've kind of gotten better at is you don't always have to stick to what you have planned. If you can kind of just tell that this audience requires or wants something a little different, you don't really need or have to switch that mood or that dynamic when they're just having fun with this certain thing. Yes, it was like, okay, these guys want jokes. I do have regular set of punchline jokes, so I'll give them that instead of doing the stories I had planned to do, because it was the vibe, it was the energy that was happening. They were, truth be told, very drunk. I was on the second half, so they were a lot drunker by then. So they're just not a crowd that was going to be listening to a story that required your attention for the humor to pay off. They kind of were an audience that needed more of a, here's the setup, here's the punchline, boom, sort of. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's different audiences, different vibes. It's good to be a comedian who has jokes that can cater to different crowds, and that was just a crowd that happened to need quicker stuff. And that was happy to just switch it up. It was kind of a fun last minute thing to do. I had a blast with it. Yeah, it was good fun. What else do I have planned for you? I did this fantastic gig in Farnham a few months back. That my buddy Dave Lynch got asked to do just from getting seen on not TikTok, on Instagram, which was pretty cool that he kind of got discovered that way. And he was so kind to ask me and our good buddy Andrew Dipple to come along and do a show for this kind of fancy smoozy cocktail bar. And it was a really, really fun show, kind of intimate in a nice way. There was 10 people in the audience, but all 10 of them, paid for tickets, and they were a good crowd. They listened. They were kind of opposite to the Irish audience I just mentioned. They were really listening, so you can kind of indulge with them a bit more and tell them some longer stories because they were paying attention. They were sipping their cocktails and having a nice chill time. So they were good fun. They were interesting too. Just again talking about different audiences, is I tried to do a little bit of crowd work at the start, and they were not having it. First time I've ever experienced this. One lady just went, I don't want to be spoken to. Which, is fair enough. You're an audience member, you pay for tickets, you get what you want. Well, within reason, obviously, you can't control what the comedians do, but if you don't want to be spoken to, that's totally your option. I respected it. My point being, they were not an audience I wanted to be spoken to, and they wanted to listen, which is totally fine. I'm more than happy and willing to just do my material. So that was really fun, a different way, because we all did 20 minutes each, so we really got to like kind of let them into our style and our way of thinking, and we all got to really indulge with them. So it was just a really nice, fun gig. Yeah, it was just a full hour. We didn't have a break or anything. It was a full hour run, and yeah, like I mentioned, there was only 10 of them, but we got to like hang out with them afterwards. All three of us got an open bar, so that was nice, and yeah, it was just good fun. It was good fun. Farnham is not a like highly populated, vibrant part of the UK. So it was interesting. It's like it's funny the places that comedy can take you, because it's like I never would have found myself in Farnham if not for the fact that I was asked to do a gig there. So that was really fun. And we ran into a comedian that we knew afterwards, and we were like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he was like, "Oh, I was doing a show that wine bar down there." And we're like, "Oh, that's crazy. How many people are in the audience?" And he was like, "About 30." And I said to Dave Lynch, "Wow, we weren't even the biggest gig in Farnham," which he hated. But that made it even funnier. Yeah, no, it was good fun. The last one I want to talk about is big development. Since I last did this podcast, actually, is my buddy, my very good friend, honestly my favorite person I met, um, doing stand up around London. Ollie Miller. We are doing a split bill together, which for those of you who don't know is when comedians will do like a two-hander show together. Like probably the most famous example at the moment anyway is Jerry Seinfeld and Jim Gaffigan are doing it together. So essentially the way ours works anyway is that Ollie will go up and do a half an hour of comedy, then I'll go up and do a half an hour of stand-up. But we're calling the show Aliens Hate Our Jokes, and we have like a little narrative that connects to it, and there's like a reason why we're doing stand-up. We have to like save the world, and it's very us. It's very like our dynamic and our style together and stuff. I think it's a really fun show. But we've only done one preview of it so far. But we have more planned. We're doing Canon Fringe at the end of August. So super excited. We're going to be doing our plan is to do Edinburgh Fringe next year. So we'll be doing smaller fringe festivals up until then, just get it like as tight as possible before, doing the big boy in 2025, all going to plan. But I'm very excited for it. We did our first preview of it, I think 2 weeks ago now. And it was just, really, really fun. We ended up getting a pretty decent crowd. It was like 15 people in the audience. So, good for, it was just like a random venue in Hammersmith. So I was glad we kind of got anybody just from going around flyering and advertising it online. Hammersmith definitely wasn't as welcoming to the flyering and the advertisement than a more kind of vibrant social place like Camden might be. So I was glad we got anybody, and they were a really good crowd. They were down for the banter. We had some comedians go up and open for us beforehand, so that really helped kind of have it really feel like a show. And then there was a break and they came back and we did the whole alien thing, which was really, really fun. We filmed these sketches that kind of connected, and I'm proud of the sketches. I think they're funny. And it was nice to see people watching the sketches, because I can't see people watch me doing stand-up, obviously. So it was fun to get to see people watch the sketches and see how they reacted to those, some particular jokes that I really liked it, that got a good reaction for the audience, and I was like, yes, I knew it. It'll be interesting to see how people vary and react differently to different jokes in the sketches as we go on to do it in different places, because it'll probably be different every time, so it was really good fun. We kind of botched, should I say, the ending of it. We just didn't really know what to do, because I do stand up last, and it ends with me kind of I don't want to give too much away in case people want to see the show, but there's a kind of written piece where I'm talking to Ollie from the screen, like pre-recorded. So it's me in real life talking to a pre-recorded Ollie. That bit kind of got messy, so we need to rehearse that for sure. That was like the biggest mistake. So, hey, you live and you learn. It was a preview show for a reason, so yeah, it'll be good to tighten those things up as much as we possibly can, and just keep getting as good and tight as it can possibly be before doing Edinburgh next year. So yeah, really looking forward to doing more with that show, and I'll keep talking about this podcast as well and discuss the development of it. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a buddy doing stand up too, because stand up can be such a freaking lonely endeavor, going to gigs and working on your material and rewriting and all that stuff. I love it, don't get me wrong. It's nice to have a buddy by my side to get through this, because it can be a lonely endeavor on the best of days and the worst of days. So yeah, it's great to have him and to do this kind of split show together. It just feels better than if I was touring, going around doing a show, like an hour show just myself. It's great to have him. Yeah, no joke there. Just speaking the truth. Um, but yeah, going on to the filming stories. I always do my little tales of filming as well. So me and Ollie also shot a new sketch together that we wrote that isn't out yet. Should be out, I would say, in the next month or two. Um, Considering where it's at now in terms of editing, I would say it might be out next month. It's not a long sketch. It's probably like 2 minutes, minute and a half. But it's kind of complicated what happens in it. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, obviously it was complicated to film, and I'm sure even more complicated for Ollie to edit. It has a lot of tricky stuff going on in there, but it was really good fun. We filmed in a boardroom where I work that the boardroom never gets used, so it was just like a perfect location where we could just film and no one bothered us, which was great. We were there for like 8 hours, and just got to really experiment in that room. That's, hey, it's not a porn, all right? Get your mind out of the gutter, people. I know what you people are like with your dirty minds. Experiment with like different takes and stuff. We got to really take our time. We weren't under any time constraints, so it was great to just like get this sketch like as funny as possible and trying out different takes and different versions and riffing and stuff. It was really good fun, and we have a little like practical effect in it as well, um, where we had to like get paper to blow into the air, um, sort of like a hurricane or a tsunami is happening. We use a leaf blower to blow the paper, and getting all that together was messy and complicated, but it was really good fun to just like try and figure it out. It was just me, Ollie, and three other wonderful comedians who were kind enough to lend a hand, and it was just a blast. It was just a really fun shoot for just like everyone was. I really love like working on a sketch where you're working really hard on getting the joke as tight as possible, but also as stupid as possible, and you're making something stupid really seriously. You know what I mean? There's something so wonderful about that. When I find myself in the middle of doing something like that, I'm just like, what a wonderful life. That I get to do that. I remember thinking that me and Ollie did a longer short film towards the end of 2023 that's still not out yet. I hope it'll see the light of day soon, because I am very proud of it. But it was called Requiem for a Custard Cream. And it was really dumb, but like in a great way. I think I'm very proud of it. It's weird, kind of has a Bill and Ted tone to it, and that's probably gonna end up being like 15 minutes long. So like it was a longer sketch. It's really a short film. So getting to like work on that for the 2 or 3 days that we filmed for, and just again, like I said, trying to make the jokes as good as possible, but also treating something so stupid so seriously. There is just something I love about that. We were making a short film about a man who eats custard creams, and when he eats them, he sees into the future. And we were filming it and talking about it and rehearsing it, acting as if it was a freaking, Schindler's List 2 or something. A sequel that needs to be made, might I add, long awaited. But yeah, there's just something wonderful about that, and just yeah, I just love comedy. I love getting to do comedy so freaking much. So yeah, you really feel that when you're filming and working with people, with a gang of people, and just like trying to make a joke as tight as possible. It's just it brings me joy. It's beautiful. And speaking of working on jokes, let's jump into some new bits I have. I have this bit that I told on my podcast, my other podcast, Dylan and Sebastian Eva Simpson's podcast. that I had no intentions of making into a stand-up bit. But again, actually, Ollie said he thinks it's funny enough that I could make it into a bit, and I still haven't actually kind of told on stage yet. Not that I'm scared to tell it or anything, just haven't gotten there yet. But I do think it has potential. As I talk about, again, let me just warn you, this is totally made up. I, my whole persona on stage is like I'm a pathetic loser who never wins at anything. Um, it just, it's, we find our voice over time, and my voice can obviously change, but for now, that seems to be what I do that works. Ollie made a good observation to me before that. I'm talking about Ollie a lot in this episode. Freaking don't want to suck his cock or something. But he said to me before that I never win in my stories, which is a great observation. And you know what? Whenever I've told a story or just a stand-up bit where I did win, so to speak, it never works as well. So I think that there is something to that. It is a part of my persona that I don't win. Hey, like I said, we find our voices. But yeah, this is what I have at the moment. Is I talk about how I started in OnlyFans recently, but my account got taken down for explicit content, which is odd because I thought that was the point. The guy told me that I'm actually the first person to lose money on OnlyFans. So that's great. I only got one subscriber. Weirdly, it kind of looked like my uncle with a fake mustache. That's a bit as it is currently. I think it's fun. There's something there. It's definitely a joke I could open with. It would have to be, you have to kind of get my style first and see where I'm going, and then the OnlyFans bit can kind of pay off if once you know me a bit, But I think there's something there. I think it's funny. I think it's an interesting concept. I like the concept of somebody OnlyFans taking down my account for indecent exposure and me getting sued by them. It's a funny setup. So there's more to be explored there. I'm looking forward to eventually bring it to the stage and seeing how it develops from there. Which is always an interesting thing too, is you see a joke a certain way and you hear it on stage and you go back and rewrite it afterwards, and it can kind of change. Just hearing how the audience reacts to it can change the structure of it so differently sometimes. And other times the joke you wrote the first draft, ends up being the bit. It changes and it varies, and it's all a fun journey. But yeah, what else did I have? Oh yeah, again, kind of a more longer winded bit, more of a story piece, I guess, is I talk about how I'm very grateful for the women I've been with in my life because they've given me a great deal of confidence. And there's nothing I enjoy more when I'm scrolling through Instagram and a friend is nearby and he sees a girl and he goes, oh, she's good looking. I can kind of like, yeah, well, I actually got with her, I get to kind of brag. But I have no limits when I do that. Like, I'll say that if I kiss them in a play, I'll be like, yeah, well, we kind of had a thing. I remember I kissed this girl in this play once, and she had a boyfriend, and her boyfriend never saw the play. And I ran into them a few years later in a bar, and the girl, we'll call her Sinead in the story, the girl was really drunk, and she was like, I never told you this, but do you remember that play I was in that I didn't want you to see? That's because I kissed Dylan in it. And she starts laughing out loud. I immediately get a bit anxious. I look over at the guy and I see that he's not one bit fazed by this, which is a bit insulting that he didn't consider me at least somewhat of a threat. Like, surely he'd look at me and be like, she got with him? I mean, he's rugged and handsome. He has a nice little stubble, curly hair ensemble going on there, But he clocked me dead in the eyes and I disappeared, and all you could see was the smoke of my body outline. I'm saying it out loud right now. I'm like, okay, it's not there yet. It needs more of a punch to it, more of a something. But I do like the idea of it. Totally true, by the way, absolutely true. Just changed the woman's name, obviously, out of respect. But yeah, that was a crazy thing. Is like, yeah, I kissed her in this play, and I didn't realize that she never told her boyfriend, which is mental. And yeah, literally a year. It might have even been a year and a half, 2 years later, she told him in front of me, "Oh, by the way, I didn't want you to see that play because I kissed." I can only imagine there was a conversation had afterwards. But he was so cool. He looked at me like so chill, like, "Oh, right, what can you do?" But a conversation was definitely had. But yeah, there's something there. I think that was the funniest bit is like me saying, "Oh yeah, we kind of had a thing when all I did was kiss them in a play." I think there's something to that joke. Maybe the story part needs a bit more punches, more jokey punchlines to them. But I think there's something there. I'll keep tinkering away at it. Not ready for the stage just yet for sure, but I'll keep writing it. Yeah, those are gonna be kind of two bits I'm working on currently, really. So let's just jump on over to the old recommendations. Yeah, I've seen a few good things, or listened, because I have a podcast here as well. Listened or watched a few good things since I last recorded this. The first one I want to talk about is Good Grief, a wonderful movie on Netflix. I believe came out in 2023 and kind of just slipped my radar. I'm not sure why, because it's written and starring Dan Levy, who also wrote Schitt's Creek and plays the son in that, and I think he's a wonderful writer and actor, um, and proved it again magnificently with this film. Good Grief, he plays a gay man living in London who loses his fiancée, and over the course of the movie kind of finds out some um let's say unfortunate things about his deceased fiance, and it's a wonderful, heartbreaking, funny, dark movie that just feels like a celebration of the resilience of the human spirit. I just really related to how his character coped with grief, and the way it develops throughout is wonderful. Ruth Nega also plays his one of his best friends in the movie absolutely amazingly. She's a fantastic actress, but I'd never seen her play quite a funny part before. And the role she plays in this is she has some very beautiful, hard hitting moments also, but the character is consistently really funny, easily the funniest character in the movie, the character who has the most jokes, and she was just so good in it. And I hope she gets more parts like that again, because I thought she absolutely annihilated it. And also his friend, the male friend. I unfortunately forget that actor's name, but he was also fantastic. The entire ensemble was amazing. The three of them, and then Luke Evans plays the fiance who passes away at the beginning. It's not a spoiler. Relax. But yeah, it's just a freaking wonderful movie that made me laugh and cry, and just I love a comedy drama. I'm sure I've spoken about that on this before. That's like my sweet spot. And when it's a hard combo to get right, because you're trying to be funny and you're also trying to be dramatic and hard hitting. But when a movie does get it right, or a TV show, it just it feels so true to how we behave in real life, because no one is just funny all the time, and no one's also dramatic all the time. So dramedy feels like that solid combo that just feels so truthful. So yeah, Good Grief, I cannot recommend it enough. It was a wonderful, wonderful movie. And after watching that movie, literally the very next day, I was just in the mood for another kind of comedy drama type thing. So I ended up watching Squid and the Whale, which is Noah Baumbach's first movie. And my God, it's fantastic. It stars Jeff Daniels, a very young Jesse Eisenberg as his son, and Laura Linney as the wife. They're all sensational in it. And also the Jesse Eisenberg's younger brother in the movie too. I don't know that actor's name, but he was also fantastic. Yeah, just again that combination. Jeff Daniels and Laura Linney are a couple in it who get divorced, and yeah, just kind of seeing how the two brothers cope with the separation, how Jeff Daniels and Laura Linney handle it as well. It's just heartbreaking and funny, and just really truthful and honest, and it never pushes the emotions either, which I think is something that dramedies can often do very well, and Noah Baumbach definitely does very well. The emotions never pushed; it always feels earned, and the characters feel sincere. And any outbursts that they have are rare, but when they do happen, they feel like they make sense. You know, it's not just, oh, I'm getting angry and shouting now because it's a movie and it's the thing that we do in movies. You know, it comes and is earned very, very much so. So yeah, oh my god, wonderful, wonderful movie. It was on Netflix when I watched it. Hopefully, still on it right now. Could not recommend it enough. Yeah, it's great. Um, yeah, what else do I want to recommend? Fly on the Wall, a fantastic podcast I've gotten obsessed with recently. That is David Spade and Dana Carvey, two, I think, of the funniest people on the world. I guess on the world is what you would say if you're a flat earther. You wouldn't say in the world, would you? You'd say on the world. That's something that flat earthers should be more consistent about, okay? If you're gonna be telling people that the earth is just this never ending line, you should be saying in the world. Like, this is the you know, I don't know what somebody would say. Donald Trump is the worst president in the world, on the world. Donald Trump is the worst president on the world. I think that's something that flat earthers, that's a term they should start using, okay? I'm giving that to you. I'm not one myself. Relax. I know I seem like one sometimes, but on the world. You're welcome, flat earthers. But yeah, my point being, I think David Carvey and David Spade are two absolutely hilarious people, some of the funniest people on the world. And I felt that way about them before this podcast. Always just thought they were so funny in movies and SNL and interviews, and the two of them on this podcast are so great, just sort of riffing. They talk about working on Saturday Night Live, and they have a guest on it every week who kind of recounts their career working there and tells stories, and it stays true to its name. It's a fly on the wall podcast. You feel like you're kind of getting the inside scoop on these celebrities' lives, and I'm endlessly fascinated by the culture and the history of Saturday Night Live. So it's really cool getting to hear behind the scenes stories of just like them working on sketches or a crazy week where they had a bizarre host or something like that. It's just such a great listen, and it's kind of made me go back and rewatch a bunch of Saturday Night Live sketches that I hadn't seen yet. I've been enjoying so much, just like scrolling through their YouTube and looking for sketches that don't have the red line on YouTube on it yet, and just finding some fantastic ones like Please Don't Destroy, make amazing sketches. I've become obsessed with this one I found where Emma Stone and Bowen Yang are talking about how the only thing that brings them joy now is working naked, fully naked in New York City. It's so funny. Look it up. It's called Naked in New York. It's just hilarious. Yes, I'm so obsessed with the culture and like how Saturday Saturday Night Live is made. I would love to be a cast member on Saturday Night Live someday. I think I could do good on it. I think I'm a decent character actor. I can play myself all right. On like a weekend update segment or something, I would love to be a cast member on Saturday Night Live. I would never leave, would be the only problem, because I'm just, what a job, you know? But yeah, I've been loving that podcast. This made me go back and revisit or see some sketches for the first time. I would just recommend going on Saturday Night Live's YouTube and just watching the sketches, because I think they still make fantastic stuff. You know, the, they make the whole show in like 6 weeks, so there's going to be some misses, but for the most part, it hits. The cast currently is fantastic. James Austin Johnson, Chloe Fineman, Michael Longfellow, who I've actually met in real life. He was a cool dude. I met James Austin Johnson as well, actually. He was also really nice. But yeah, Marcelo Hernandez, Sarah Sherman, just a fantastic group currently. I'm just loving what they do, and their styles are so unique and separate, but they also are a great ensemble together as well. So yeah, I'm really loving it currently. Just a great hoot, a great show. It's always cool when you see a host as well who you wouldn't expect to be good and they end up being great. Like I remember, oh, who was one I watched recently that really surprised me? Travis Kelce, the American football player. I remember seeing that he had done a whole episode, and I thought I was like, it was time for me to watch his sketches, and I was like, oh, I don't know about Travis Kelce. I think like pretty much all of his sketches were great, and he was great in them. He was just so down the clown, and that's always great to see. Just somebody who doesn't typically do comedy actually kind of doing well in comedy. It was really really fun to watch. I remember feeling the same way watching the roast of Tom Brady. I was there for the comedians doing jokes. I was there for Nicky Glazier and Jeff Ross and Tony Hinchcliffe and all those absolute killers, just amazing comedians. Um, and whenever the football just went up, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But they ended up being super funny as well, like Alex Edelman and Ron Gronkowski and stuff. They actually had like good delivery and some great jokes. They probably didn't write them, but it was super cool to just see how well they handled it. Yeah, the roast of Tom Brady, I think, is one of the best roasts of all time. If you're interested in roast battles, I mean, everyone saw it, but just in case you didn't, that was good fun. Um, but yeah, went on a whirlwind of tangents there. But yeah, Flying the Wall, just a great podcast that just kind of got me obsessed with the culture of Saturday Night Live again, and really just fell down a rabbit hole that I haven't came out of yet. But I'm having a good time down there. I also read a fantastic book about a year back called Live from New York by Tom Shales, which is just like a biography, a cohesive biography of the history of Saturday Night Live. I think it was the first 40 years. It's like 750 pages, and I ate it up. Just, oh, it was so interesting. If you're interested in comedy and history, and specifically sketch writing, could not recommend that book enough. Get on it. It's so good. But yeah, tangents galore in this one. I mean, look, it's a podcast where I talk to myself, so I guess that's bound to happen. I'm gonna go on some tangents. I hope it's interesting to listen to. I have a fun time talking about them, so I hope the enthusiasm is felt on your side as well. And if not, you can stop listening at any time. Obviously, don't be a hater, but I appreciate you being here, and I want you to know that if you're here right now, it means that you're a genuine fan, and I love you. And with your consent, if you are ever interested, I would love to touch your nipples. All right, let's move on. Pitch it, yeah. My last segment of the podcast, and currently my favorite segment. I'm obviously open to maybe new segments will come along, and I might get rid of ones and stuff. For the moment, this is the one I'm closing the podcast on, and the one I really really enjoy. Pitch it, just kind of telling you guys what ideas I have. I got a lot of ideas up in this noggin up here, and it's pretty fun to just share. See where these ideas go. It'll be a fun thing to look back on in a couple of years' time where I'll be like, oh yeah, Babbling, that podcast I used to do, and I'll listen to the first episode and be like, oh my god, that idea, I actually made that. Or, oh my god, that idea, I totally forgot about that. Maybe I'll revisit, that's kind of cool. So it's fun to have this little treasure trove. This little memory bank of stuff. So here's two ideas, because I don't want to keep you guys for too long. Two ideas I kind of had at the moment is me and Ollie have had this character called the Heckler Schmeckler that we've been developing, kind of just together or just over the phone sometimes. We have written a little sketch featuring the character too, but it's just developed into crazy areas. Basically, the Heckler Schmeckler is a colony in an alternate universe, where their goal in life is that they will be one day put onto the planet Earth to serve a purpose. So maybe that purpose is they help a guy fix their TV, and their belief is that, oh my god, this is ridiculous. I'm saying it out loud right now, and I'm like, this requires too much. It's just this crazy character that we've developed together. It's a fantasy character, obviously, so it has a lure to it. But yeah, let's say their quest, their objective in life is they have to help somebody fix their TV. Eventually, they don't know when, they'll eventually be sent to planet Earth to help this person fix their TV. And their belief is once they fulfill their purpose, that they get to live this amazing, incredible life. But the truth is, they actually just catch on fire immediately and die. But they don't know that part. So that's kind of like what the character is right now. We've written a sketch from a human's perspective where he keeps encountering heckler schmecklers and tries to warn them, and it doesn't go well for him. So it's a fun little stupid fancy character, but we've gotten so obsessed with it. We've kind of like created a concept of like developing it further and creating right now it's just an idea, is a movie. And I kind of see it as puppets in like a sort of Dark Crystal type setup where you actually follow it from the Heckler Schmeckler's perspective. And it's these two puppets who somehow find out about the thing where once they fulfill the purpose, they catch on fire, and they try to warn the other Heckler Schmecklers, but they don't believe in them and they outcast them. And it's about these two puppets, these two brothers, let's say. Obviously, in my head, it's played by me and Ollie, becoming outcasts and kind of having to make a life from their own, separate from their own colony, because they're so certain of what their destiny is and they want to follow their destiny, and do what's right, and what they've been told to believe in doesn't feel right to them. So, as you can tell, you can see just there, it actually has a deeper message to it, but it's grounded. Well, grounded probably isn't the word to describe this. It's mental. It's the message is, it will be hidden in this sort of like magical fantasy world. And look, who knows if anything will ever come with this idea, but I'm liking it right now in my head, and I see it as being something that would take years to make and get right, and to really, because we haven't even begun to really dive deep into the lore of that world yet. I would want to do something like what Jim Henson and Frank Oz did with Dark Crystal, where they knew the whole world and the characters surrounding it before they even wrote a screenplay. That's what I like to do with this movie as well. This idea is creating that world before putting pen to paper, so we really kind of know what's happening there, so that's an idea that's really like exciting my brain and tantalizing it right now. So yeah. And the final one I want to pitch to you is a very different idea. Is an idea I had. So this is more like a kind of comedy drama project. Again, something I see as a movie is, so as adults, when we turn 18 and we're about to go to college, or uni as English people call it, it's college in the rest of the world like normal people, but when you turn 18 and you have to decide what you want to do after school, there's basically two people in the world: people who stay home, stay in the place where they're from for their entire lives, or people who move away. There's just two different people there. And I remember being at a crossroads when I was 18, that I would either stay home in my beloved hometown, Tralee, County Kerry, and inevitably that would have been where I'd live for the rest of my life, probably, right? Could have done that, or could have gone to college someplace else, which is obviously what I ended up doing. I went to Cork City, was there for 5 years, and then moved to London. My idea is a movie where I play myself. What would have happened if I stayed home? I'm really intrigued by this idea. And look, obviously it's going to be exaggerated and story driven and conflict and everything else. What really would have happened if I stayed home? Probably would have been boring and worked an adult job and had a very boring life. But I want to kind of, tear that idea inside out and just, yeah, I could have been someone who wasn't ambitious, but I always obviously had a creative spirit and a creative spark and creative being about me. So that would have came into play and been in conflict in my life if I stayed in my hometown. So that's kind of what the idea is currently in my head, is me not leaving home, but me wanting to pursue more. But in my head, I never ever leave home in this movie idea. I stay home, but I have ambitions. It's just like, what do you do with this character who has all these dreams and ambitions, but he doesn't go anywhere? Like, how can we confine this character? I see it kind of going in direction like maybe he starts doing plays, just like his own like little local theater company. And for some reason in my head, a police officer plays a big role in it. Like, I'm friends with a police officer, because police officers obviously you can't be a police officer in a town that you're from. You have to move someplace else. So the police officer is like this one person I know who's not from this town, and hearing stories about a different place in the world and living in a different place in the world makes me envious and curious. But I never leave. In my head, I never leave in the story, because the whole point is that it's an alternate universe. Um, but yeah, I'm intrigued by that. I'd be living with my mom in the story because that's something that would happen. And there'd be conflict there, because there can't not be conflict if you're, a young adult still living with your parents. So I see stuff like that. Yeah, alcoholism, I'm sure, would be explored, because I'm very fond of my drink right now. I'm not going to lie about that. But if I end up staying home, I'd be extra fond of my drink because, well, it's just a very boozy town anyway. People drink pretty heavy there. But if I lived a boring life where I just work Monday to Fridays, then yeah, every weekend I'd probably go out. It's just like, what would happen? So yeah, right now it's sort of like a probably Judd Apatow type tone of a movie. Um, I don't have a plot yet necessarily. There isn't really a beginning, middle, and end to it, but I'm intrigued by the concept of what would have happened if I just never left that town. Who would I be? That's the idea developing in my head right now, and it's a very interesting concept to me. It couldn't not be autobiographical and somewhat, not even somewhat, but very personal. But yeah, it's an interesting idea to me, and I love the idea of the police officer character. I don't know why. It's like the idea of me being friends with a police officer. Like, what a weird friendship. That's all very intriguing to me right now. Yeah. Um, I like to be faithful to that character and that version of me and give him a happy ending, of course. Um, I do love my hometown and I miss it a lot, and there's a part of my heart that yearns for it and wishes I never left, but there's another part of my heart that knows I made the right choice and I had to leave. It was never going to be the place where I stayed forever. But I'm getting emotional right now just talking about that. But yeah, I like the idea of this script where this guy who never leaves and probably feels a different feelings towards that town as I do right now. Because right now I think about my hometown and it makes me starry eyed and nostalgic, and it's my home. It'll always be my home. But if I stayed there, I think a resentment would grow towards the town, and I would feel like, oh, the town's holding me back, or my potential will never be seen if I stay here. But I never leave. I've said that 27 times now, but in my head, the character will not leave, because it's the opposite to what happened to me in real life, obviously. So yeah, I actually think it would be boring if I left. The challenge is, how can we make everything happen to him without him leaving this little quiet Irish village? Well, it's not a village; it's a town. It's probably like a population of 25,000, so it's not a big town, but it's a town. Um, but yeah, that idea is really intriguing me right now for sure. I just see my brother having a part to play in it as well. Like, maybe I become envious of him being young and all the potential he has that I don't feel like I have. And like, seeing the world through his eyes could be an element that's explored there. I see myself having conflict with my stepfather in it, which isn't true in real life. I love my stepfather very much, but it's an interesting dynamic, and a thing that is explored in TV and film a lot is that the son who's not the related to the stepfather, the son from the failed marriage, has a resentment towards their stepfather. These are all things I just feel like are interesting and areas I want to explore. Yeah, I'm just intrigued by the concept now of like, what would happen if I was this guy with all these dreams and hopes and ambitions and ideas who just never did anything with them. That's what's interesting me right now. That's an idea that's just developing ever so much in my head. The King of Staten Island is definitely a sort of inspiration for it. I see it being very tonally similar to that. If you haven't seen that, that's a Pete Davidson movie, written by him, directed by Judd Apatow, starring Marissa Tomei and Bill Burr. Could not, and Ben Pete Davidson, of course. I could not recommend that movie enough. I think it's so good. It's 2.5 hours long, and I don't feel bored for a second watching it. It's just a hoot. Yeah, a lot of talk of comedy dramas today, funnily enough, but that's just the kind of stuff that moves me. I love something that can make me laugh and cry something that can make me feel all emotions, the best emotions to feel, is just a winner to me. And King of Staten Island is definitely an example of that. So yeah, I could not recommend it enough. But guys, that's everything I had planned to talk to you about today. This was a really, really fun one, kind of chill, casual one. I felt really relaxed just chatting with you today. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. If there's anything I could do to make this podcast more interesting, if there's just anything at all that you'd like to see more of, if there's anything you'd like to see that I haven't done at all yet on this, just let me know. Especially if you're subscribed and supported me on Patreon, please let me know what else I could do to make this as entertaining for you as possible. I'm happy and open to all your suggestions and feedback. But until then, I've been Dylan Harris. You've been a fantastic audience. Thanks for listening to all of my tangents and rants and ravings, and I will chat to you so soon. Bye bye.